Hello everybody, welcome to today's newest video. Let me try to clip this on so I'm not just holding it. Probably should have done this before. Okay, hold on. All right. Hello everybody and welcome to today's newest video. Today we're going to be talking about transit Jupiter in the 4th house. I know it's been a while since I've come on here, but if you have read my community posts, you would know that I've just been going through a lot. I moved to a different country, and like just so much other things, but the main point being like I moved to a different country a couple months ago, and I just haven't really had a lot of motivation, honestly, to get on YouTube. I've kind of been pivoting my attention to Substack. So I am going to link my Substack below. And in my Substack, I talk about dreams and I talk about how my dreams have helped me. I talk about how my dreams and waking reality merge, and how dream journaling and following the advice and the uh, just the advice, basically, the insight of my dreams, how it's gone for me. Because sometimes I don't listen and sometimes I do. So if you're interested in that, like I said, the link will be in the description box. So I have been turning my attention a lot to dreams just based on, that. North Node is currently transiting my 1st house. If you don't know, North Node is in Pisces. I made a video about North Node transiting the 5th house, the experience that I had when North Node was in Cancer. So right now Jupiter is in my 5th house, and it's been in my 5th house for a couple of months. Literally the day that Jupiter went into my 5th house, or like the day before, I moved to a different country. So yeah. But yeah, North Node is currently in my 1st house, the 1st house of identity and your soul's journey. So I have just been really like hunkering down on like my relationship with my dreams. North Node is about to be in Aquarius in my 12th house. I'm like, what the is that gonna be? Like, I have no idea. But anyway, um, as you know, North Node has been transiting Pisces for some time now, actually. My ascendant is an early degree Pisces, but I also have other planets in Pisces. I have Mars, I have Jupiter, and I also have South Node in Pisces. And they're all like pretty early degree clustered, like kind of all together. They're not all conjunct, but they kind of basically all are, if you kind of, you know what I mean? Because I know some people, they do conjunctions based on like 10-degree orb. Everybody's different in the way they like to do it. I think for me, maybe like a 3 or less degree orb makes the most sense. But, you know, anyway. So now, North Node, the last time I checked, which was a couple days ago, it's at 10 degrees. So it is conjunct my Mars. No, my South Node is conjunct my South Node. And it's been conjunct my South Node, creeping up for some time now, for a couple of weeks, maybe like a month. And I'm feeling it. Okay. I definitely feel like I'm feeling it a lot more now that North Node is at reaching and coming into early degree Pisces as an early degree Pisces. So it's really interesting compared to when it was at the later degree. And I do sometimes feel later degree Pisces transits. I remember the eclipse that happened in Pisces like 2 years ago. That was like a 20 something degree eclipse, but I felt it very strongly. During that time, I broke up with my boyfriend at the time. He was not really my boyfriend, but he's my boyfriend. He was my boyfriend. He broke up with me, and then I went to Spain like the week after he broke up with me. And just the synchronicities that happened in Spain and everything was honestly like crazy. Like, yeah. So, anywho, in today's video, I'm not entirely sure what I want to talk about. I wanted to talk about Jupiter transiting the 4th house and my experience with that, especially because like I moved right when like Jupiter was at like 29 degree Gemini. I have Gemini in the 4th house. And if you can hear this fan, I apologize. I don't think you guys can, but I have a fan literally blowing on me because it is hot. Okay, it's really hot where I live. I live in the tropics. I live on the island. So yeah. Um, but yeah, I wanted to talk about that, but now I'm not entirely sure that that's what I want to talk about. Saturn is about to regress back into Aries. So you know what? I've actually been trying to do this video having Saturn in Aries. So that's going to be today's video, okay? It took only 5 minutes for me to come up with it, okay? But I do have notes that I have written like years ago because I've been wanting to do this video. But one time when I recorded it, it was honestly depressing. Like, I watched it back and I was like, I'm not uploading that. Like, because I started going into, Saturn rules over the father side of the family, a bunch of things, but I was at that point in the video, I was specifically talking about my dad. And I was just like, this is so depressing. Like, yeah, I'm not going to upload this. So I'm in a really good mood today. I went to dance class yesterday. I cried at dance class. I had a moment with one of my friends, and before I even went to dance class, I was thinking about Saturn transits and how they've shown up in my life. So that's what today's video is going to be. Okay. So I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but I dance, and I might have mentioned it in the North Node and fifth house transit video. But I've been dancing a lot more, and I've actually been honing in on my skills a lot more. Okay. But in ways that, no, but also on top of honing in on my skills, there's been a lot of changes. Like, I moved and things of that nature, and that's also affected my ability to be as consistent as I want to be in dance. And I feel like it's it's Saturn. It's not because of Saturn, but you know what y'all know, y'all are advanced astrologers by now. Y'all already know. So let's first start with like what I have, right? So like I said, I have Saturn in Aries. In whole signs, it's in the second house, and in Placidus, it's in the first house. Okay, and I do resonate with both interpretations, but for the sake of today's video, we're mostly going to talk about it being from the second house. But you know, as I continue to talk, you're definitely probably going to notice how some of it is going to overlap with the first house. I mean, that's just natural. You know what I mean? So I have Saturn in Aries, sextile my sun in Aquarius in the 12th house. I have it squared my Venus in the 11th house, Capricorn, and squared my moon in the 5th house, Cancer. And my tightest conjunction in my whole entire chart, I have only 2 tight conjunctions. And when I say tight, I'm saying like literally this. You know what I mean? Like, they're at the same degree. So my only 2 tight conjunctions are Mercury conjunct Uranus, which means I'm like batshit crazy. Like, my mind is just like, yeah. And Moon squared Saturn. Those are my 2 tightest conjunctions. So, and I think my Moon square Saturn is actually like the tightest out of those 2 because it's like 0.01 conjunction. Conjunction. It's squared, but yeah. Okay, let's get into it. So there's so much that I can say about having Saturn in Aries. But one thing that I can say too is I'm impatient. I notice in my life that when I rush to do things, it kind of bites me in the ass. And it could be something as simple as like rushing to get something or rushing to open up something, and then like you cut yourself, you hurt your finger, things like that. You know what I mean? Um, Now, because I started this video talking, like, not starting this video, but because I started this segment talking about dance, I do want to talk about that. And that's going to lead its way into like talking about my father and my dad's side of the family and some other things. I'm going to try to not make this video too long, but I really do want you guys to get a sense of Saturn and Aries and how it's shown up, how it shows up in my life. Okay. So also for reference, I have a day chart. So if you're into that as well, just keep that in mind, if you're doing some studying about this particular, placement. So And you probably already knew that considering my son is in the 12th house. But anyway, let's get to it. So I started dancing when I was really, really young. I actually started, I don't remember what age I was, but my step grandma on my mom's side, she was a folk singer. And I used to dance as background, a part of, her group during, family events, things of that nature. And so that was like my first experience with dance. Now, simultaneously, I was also going to a school in New York. I think it was no, it wasn't a performing arts school. It was a magnet school, but didn't it like, okay. Anyway, it was a magnet school in the Bronx, and I danced there as well. And dance was always just very natural for me. It didn't I just can't remember a time where I was like young and I really like thought about dance, if that makes sense. It was just something where, I was in it and I would do it. Not that I didn't care about it, but I was good at it, and that was it, right? um so after we moved from New York, we moved out of New York when I was, I think, like 8 or 9 years old. And when we moved out of New York, North Node was transiting my first house in Pisces. So funny how I ended up moving again out of the country when North Node transits my first house again. So yeah. Anyway, we moved, and because of financial constraints, etc., I didn't dance at all. But remember, I didn't really think about it much. There were some times where I did, but for the most part, not really. It was just kind of like, you don't have the money. Now, why didn't we have the money? I feel like a lot of the reasons we didn't have the money was because my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was the main one working, and she was the main one providing, stability. Again, we're talking about Moon, which is the mother, Saturn, which is stability, but Saturn's also blockages, and Saturn's also the father, right? So my dad, it was really hard for him to keep a job. Now, both of my parents, they are immigrants. But they had been in the States for some time, you know what I mean? And it's not to maybe like downplay some of the struggles that immigrants have, no matter how long they've been in a particular country. You know what I mean? But like I said, my dad was an alcoholic, so that's also a part of it. You know what I mean? And a lot of my mom's money, not only was she providing for me and my two other siblings, but she also had to worry about my dad. And so even if I wanted to do extracurricular activities, which I did try to do some extracurricular activities, I remember in sixth grade, I tried out for volleyball and I made it. But see, this one, okay, I tried out for volleyball and I made it, but I didn't stay. Why? Because a friend at the time who told me about volleyball, she didn't make the team. And I was just kind of like, if my friend's not in here, I don't want to do this. You know what I mean? So I ended up quitting. And I wasn't like passionate about volleyball. Like it just was like, no. I should have stayed with it though. But and I had like coaches telling me to come back. Like they were like, come back, come back. And I remember I had another coach that told me, she asked me if I ran track, and I was like no, and she's like, you look like you run track, like your legs and stuff like that, not in a creepy way, but yeah. And Aries rules over like sports, if you didn't know. Well, it's mostly Mars, and I do have, like I said, Mars and Pisces in the first. So yeah, but anyway, I didn't do volleyball for very long, and yeah. Next was what was the other thing? Also, just being the fact, let me just talk about like one story that I have about volleyball. I remember one time I got out of volleyball practice and I was waiting for my dad to come pick me up, and he took forever to pick me up. How many of you guys have that story? He took forever to pick me up. I don't know what he was doing. Um I don't even think he had a job at that time. So do you get what I'm trying to say? Like with Saturn blockages in the second house ruling resources, assets, values, a bunch of other things as well. When you have a parent who is working all the time, and maybe you have a parent who's staying at home, right? But the parent that's staying at home is not really supporting you, it can hurt a lot. You know what I mean? It can hurt. It can hurt your chances at doing things. It can hurt your self-esteem, a lot of things, because you just like wonder like what the fuck are they doing? Obviously I knew what my dad was doing, but just, as a child I didn't know, right? Um and so when you grow older, you're like, well, you have all this time. Like I really could have, you know what I mean? I really could have been that if he took the role as a parent seriously. Okay. And also just in the realm of like being him having uh alcohol issues, 12th house rules over like substance abuse and things of that nature. So that's a story I can tell you guys. Um Later on I tried to do gymnastics. This was like I was in high school at this point. So I don't think I tried anything in middle school. Well, that was middle school. That was sixth grade. So I don't think I tried anything after that. And then I tried out well, I didn't try out to do cheer, but I did gymnastics because I wanted to be on the cheer team in the new high school I was going to. So this was like sophomore year of high school. And I only went to gymnastics maybe like a couple times because then we were going to Honduras, which is where my parents are from. We were going to Honduras for like summer break or something like that. And I just like never went back to gymnastics. Like, and I think it had something to do with finances, but when I talked to my mom recently about it, she was like, no, you said you didn't want to go back. And I was like, you could be right, but I feel like it had more to do with finances because I'm just telling you, a lot of stuff had to do with finances, and naturally so, you know what I mean? And then in high school, so I didn't do the cheer, didn't do gymnastics for very long. And then I tried to do soccer. Okay. So like I tried to do some shit. Okay. I tried to do soccer, and I went to the head coach's office, and, I was just talking to him, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about trying out for soccer. Long story short, he literally basically said like, you can't be a part of the team because you're not experienced in soccer. That's literally basically, long story short, that's what he said. And so I didn't even try out. I was very discouraged. And so if you look at all three of those stories, there's something about blockages, right? Um, so yeah. And yeah. And then I didn't dance again until I was in my 20s. So I did acid. I talked about that, I think, before. And it just awoken me creatively. I started dancing. I started drawing. I started writing more. I've always written, but I started writing more. By journaling and dream journaling, things of that nature. And like I said, let me tell you something. I never used to draw. I would draw for class, when you have art class or something like that. But on my own time at home, it would mostly be spent out of, all of those things. It would mostly be spent talking. I've always talked to myself. I think talking is a skill. Okay. And writing. Okay. But drawing's never really been a thing until I did acid. And it's just been crazy the works that I have done. You know what I mean? And just how much like artistry, right? How much of an artist that we are, that just needs to be unlocked. And the 12th house also talks about like hidden talents and hidden gifts. I don't have Venus in there, but hey. So I didn't start dancing until my 20s. And I started first with pole dancing, with what is it called? Pole fitness. Okay. I wasn't at the strip club. I was at a pole studio. And it is important to make that distinction, not to shame people, but to give people their, it's two different things. You get what I'm trying to say? So, yeah. And, I'm trying to, sorry guys, I'm just, my mind is a little like scattered right now. Um, so I started dancing again. I started pole dancing, and then I pivoted, and I was like, you know what? Well, I want to start hip hop dancing because I used to dance hip hop when I was a kid. Yes, I used to dance my traditional. So I'm indigenous to the Americas and African mix, and so when my grandma would do her performances, we were doing it to our traditional, uh, uh, our traditional music. She's a folklore artist for our traditional music. And But at school, I would do hip hop dancing or like jazz funk. So I wanted to get back into that. And so that's what I started doing, like about, okay, so let me tell y'all. So after I did pole dancing or like in the mist, I would take time out once out of the year to do a hip hop class. Why once, you might be asking? Well, I would go to the hip hop class, be discouraged, and then leave. Mm-hmm. So I would go to the I remember one particular time. This still makes me emotional to this day. I went to class and I felt good about it, it wasn't the best, da da da. And then I went to no, wait, maybe I'm thinking about something else. Okay, no. I went to this class, and if you've ever gone to a dance class, you know that at the end of the class they have you do it in groups. And I didn't go up to do it in groups. And I remember watching everybody and I just started crying. I started crying because I just couldn't understand why the moves weren't being translated well in my body as someone who used to dance. It was the first time that I felt so discouraged with myself. Um, and yeah, I just sat in that class, watched everybody, and I just cried, you know? And yeah, I feel emotional now because I was thinking about it yesterday too when I was in dance class. And it's just something that, like, it's just very emotional for me. Moon, hello. And also Saturn, right? You could even say Saturn in the first house, the body. Some people say the second house is the body too. So, but yeah, it was just very emotional for me. And then I remember I went back to class and I didn't even step in the class. I stayed in the car. I didn't even, you know what I mean? This was years ago, by the way, again, if you don't remember. I just stayed in the car and I didn't even go into class. And I just felt so defeated, you know? So through the years, like I said, I would try, It was like maybe four years that I would just go like once just to try. And I would see no improvement and I would beat myself up and not go again for another year. And it wasn't until last year, 2025, or was it 2024? It was 2024. Yeah. It wasn't until 2024 that I told myself, well, you can't go once a year and expect any improvement. You have to keep going. Mm-hmm. Told that to myself. Okay. Well, it was probably my guides, actually. But yeah, I was like, yeah, I can't. You're right. Me to me. You're right. I can't keep going once a year and expect anything to change. I have to go. I have to buy a membership. I got to keep going. I got to improve. Now, during this time, I had started ice skating. So I was already ice skating for a couple of months. I already then fell on my ass, da da da. And I really do feel like that contributed to me dancing better and having more confidence. You know what I mean? Because when you're ice skating, you're going to fall on your ass. It don't matter how good you are, So I do think it was a fear of looking, crazy, which I feel like is also Saturn square moon, right? Because the fifth house is expression as well. So I do feel like, and when I say crazy, I'm saying just like super like using expression, which I use naturally, but there's something about using it in my dancing. I don't know, that feels a little bit out of control. Okay, and Saturn also rules over control. So and a little bit so does Moon. But anyway, so I ended up getting a membership. Okay, and when I tell you guys, the way that after that first class I took, I think I cried, but it was tears of joy. I could not believe that I remembered the moves because that was something else that was like really like fucking me up when I was going to these other classes years ago. I was like, how are y'all remembering these moves so quickly? I don't understand. But when I went in 2024 and this was Scorpio season, I felt so like I was like, oh my God, like, yes, finally. And I also think a part of that was because I told myself, I'm going to keep going no matter what. I don't care how I look. I don't care if I cry. I'm going to keep going. And that right there changed todo, changed everything. And I've been going to dance class ever since. I've taken dance classes in New York. I've taken dance classes in LA. I take dance classes where I live now. Um, I've been taking dance classes in places that I never would have thought I would have ever taken a dance class. And not because of insecurity, but just because, it just doesn't really cross your mind. You're watching the YouTube videos and you always are going to see Millennium? Yeah, Dance Complex. Well, guess what? I've been there a couple times. I've been to Alvin Ailey, like these places that are so revered that I didn't even know they were that revered. Well, Millennium I knew because, like I said, you always see their dance stuff come up. But when I went there, like it's different seeing the videos of people dancing and then like going there and seeing the studio, seeing all the photos of all the celebrities, of all the choreographers. Like it is different actually going there and being like, yo, I'm really here right now. Like I'm really her. You know what I mean? Like I really came up type shit. And I'm still practicing still to this day because where I live now, so I left my car back home with my family. And because it's a little some chump and change to, ship it to the island. And so I have struggled with being consistent with dance classes here where I live because I don't have a car. You know what I mean? And sometimes finances is tight and I can't order that Uber to go to dance class. You know what I mean? So I haven't been as consistent as I was before I moved. But let me tell you something. Since I moved, I've had the opportunity to dance in New York and LA and all these other places. So it's really weird in a way when you look at it. It's really weird because I wouldn't like I'm talking when I'm telling you like having these opportunities to go to these places. If you didn't know, I'm a flight attendant. Okay, and back home, I'm flight attendant terms. Don't worry if you don't know. Back home, I was on reserve. And the type of flights that you get is very sporadic, very random, but I had the consistency of being a member at the dance studio near my home, right? When I moved, now I have a line. Okay? Now I have a line. And because I have a line and the trips here, are a lot better. I have my layovers in New York, in LA, to be able to go to these revered dance classes so I can practice and get better. You know what I mean? So that's how it was when I first got here. Like it was like straight back to back LA, New York. I remember I took vacation off. Like I told you guys, I was born and raised in New York. I still have family there. Go visit my family, then go to dance class. Like it was, I felt like I was back living in New York. You know what I mean? But as an adult. And so yesterday, the reason why I was thinking about Saturn and, and crying in class was because I was just like so frustrated because I was like, I feel like I should be so much far ahead than I am if I could just have like consistent transportation, to the dance class here where I live. And it really just started to weigh on me because I'm just like, damn, like, and the trips haven't been good lately. They haven't been giving us good trips. So I haven't been in New York. I haven't like when and I have been in LA, but then we get to LA and I'm tired as fuck. I don't have the energy to go to the dance class because then let me tell you something. I take public transportation. I'm a public transportation girly. Okay, I am. And New York, public transportation is, I mean, it is what it is, but it's one of the best in the country. And then LA's is not bad, but goddamn, at least in New York, I used to take a pit stop and go visit my family and then go to dance class. In LA, it's so tiring because I spend so much time traveling to the dance studio, going to dance, and then traveling back. It's a lot. And not stopping any time of the way. You know what I mean? Because it's like I gotta get there on time. And anyway, Saturn shit. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I started crying. And another thing too, I've been asking instructors, specifically instructors that I used to go to to my old studio with. I've been asking them for private lessons and never hearing back from them. And that's also been getting in my head because I'm like, when I do go back home to Florida, if you didn't already know, I live, I half live in Florida, half live here, but anyway, because my family still lives there, so I say I live there. But when I go to Florida, I also still want to train. I also still want to dance. You might be like, well, just go back to the studio you used to go to. It's a membership only studio. So it's not something where I can just drop in on the classes that I want to go to specifically. And so I've been asking for private lessons and I don't hear back. So I've just been like, oh my God, like what, like what is going on? What is going on? Okay. And so instead, I've been taking my ass to Orlando. I was like, I remember I was sitting here. Again, I'm telling you, it's my guys. I was sitting here in este cama like 2, 3 weeks ago. Maybe not that. Maybe it was like maybe 4 weeks ago. And I told myself, I'm just going to have to go to Orlando. If the people at that studio, specifically the people that I reached out to, if they cannot teach me. And then I remember going to that studio recently because one of my ex coworkers, she works there now. Okay. She works there. And I remember going there and I took a class and I was just like, this is too rudimentary for me. After going to New York and going to LA and coming to dance classes here in La Isla, it's too beginner. It's too slow. So I knew that I had already leveled up. You know what I mean? But I wanted to get better. I wanted to refine my moves. I want to, you know what I mean? I want to stick the landing. You get what I'm trying to say? So that's why I was looking for a private instructor. And it just seemed like it was just not going to happen. It was not going to happen with this particular people that I was asking. And so, like I said, I was sitting on my bed and I was like, you're just going to have to go to Orlando. Yeah, it's far, but you're just going to have to go to Orlando. And that's it. What do people say? You just got to lock in. And that's what I did. When I went back home, um, I went to dance class in Orlando. And I'm so glad that I did. I had a great, wonderful time. And again, I've just been noticing how much I've been improving with memory recall, with my stamina, making sure that I'm drinking a lot of water before class. Like it really fucking helps. Like you really don't sweat as much when you drink at least for me, I don't sweat as much when I drink a lot of water before class. And that counts, especially when you get like a fresh free twist, like, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, like my memory recall, what else, what else did I just say? My stamina, but I know that I can look better dancing, more sharp. You know what I mean? My moves aren't as sharp as I want them to be. And I know it's so early in the journey. Saturn rules over time and delays, and Saturn really is that, like, you're not going to rush. Like Saturn and Aries is like, I want to be a professional dancer, oi. And Saturn is like, well, we're going to see if you really want it. We're going to see what you're going to do for it. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? So it has been a struggle. I was going to go on and maybe I'll do a part 2 to this because this was mainly about dance, but I feel like it's the most Saturnian part of my life. Also finances. So I will make another video about finances. But I just wanted to really make, this video for you guys to really kind of understand Saturn and Aries from my own experience, particularly with dance. And I'm sure that a lot of you guys can relate, even if you're not in sports, even if it is, particularly finances. You know what I mean? And my financial story is very similar too. Actually, it's very, very similar. Venus also rules, kind of over finances and resources. I have Venus in Capricorn. Capricorn is longevity, right? The 11th house groups. 11th house is also wealth. And if we look at Vedic astrology, oh my God, you guys, I have to make another video about Vedic astrology. I do. I've been kind of iffy about it. I've been studying it for years now, but I've been a little bit iffy about it, but I do kind of want to make a video about it. But anywho, yeah, it's very similar to my relationship with finances and my relationship to love and relationships. And you know what I mean? Like it's right there. It's right. It'd be right in our faces with astrology, and I love that because it's just explaining like what the fuck is going on in our life. Like you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Which it doesn't mean like, oh, yeah, so love's never gonna happen. Like no, it's just you know what I mean. Like or dancing is never gonna happen. Like that's not what it means. You know what I mean? Like, um, or it's always gonna be hard or whatever. Like that's not. That's also not what it means. But for me, dancing feels just like it's been so hard, but it's something that I always come back to. Like, no matter what, I always come back to dance. Even when I'm, like I said, the year, it's not like I would sit over here and be like, okay, well, see you again next year. It wasn't like that. It was, I would leave confused, run amok, led astray, betrayed, all that stuff. But I felt like betrayed by my own body. But, you know, that was, yeah, that's the first time I said that out loud. Like, I felt like I was betrayed by my own body because, like I said, I used to dance when I was young, so I didn't understand what was happening. Anyway, where was I going with that? Um, Saturn. Yeah, just it's not like I would go one year and then tell myself, okay, let me plan to come again next year. No, I would leave upset, sad, and literally tell myself, okay, that's it. Clearly, it's just not for me. And then somehow, somewhere, a year later, dance would come up again in my life, and I would say, oh, I need to sign up for a dance class again. And I would go and see if I've improved. Obviously, didn't. And again, cycle. Saturn rules over karma. Okay. And I was born on an 8 day, which, by the way, I'm turning 28 on February 8th. Y'all, let's get into it. Let's get into it, y'all. Cause what? If you didn't know, 8 is a karmic Saturnian number because it rules over time. It's the infinity loop. Okay. It's That's why I love the show Dark. Like, let me tell you, I love time travel shows, but I love the show Dark on Netflix because I feel like it's the perfect show to talk about the number 8, literally. Um, but yeah, so Saturn is very karmic, okay? And in a way, not in terms of looking at my chart, but a lot of things have been coming up lately with Selena as well as Michael Jackson. Okay. And I do want to touch on that. The reason why is because if you looked at both of their fathers, Saturn, both of their fathers, well, I don't know about Michael Jackson. I'm not going to, because I'm not 1,000% sure. But Selena's father used to be in a group, and the group wasn't very, well, I'm not going to say it wasn't very successful, but I mean, it wasn't as successful as Selena y los Dinos. You know what I mean? And there's something about like I think it's specific Saturn placements, right, with the father, especially if the father didn't fulfill that dream or that goal and then puts it on the children. Now, my dad never forced me to be a dancer or forced me to dance or was like, you need to, like, he was never like that, just in general. You know what I mean? But my dad could draw. And it's sometimes I forget because I only ever saw his creativity like far and few in between. He was really into music and he could draw. Okay. And in Vedic astrology, I have Saturn Revati Nakshatra. So yeah. And yes, he loved to fish. Like when I tell you, he loved to fish. Okay. Um, but anyway, yeah, I remember, and this is where I'm gonna end it, just talking about my dad. So I remember one time when we were in New York, I think my sister wanted my dad to draw something for her, or maybe it was me. It was either me or her, and it was a Powerpuff Girls like large painting, or not large painting, but just large canvas, basically large piece of paper, or whatever. And my dad, I think, don't quote me, I think he either traced over something or he actually like, did it without tracing. But tracing is artistry within itself too. You know what I mean? Like I know a lot of people don't think it is, but it is. I've seen some really talented people that can trace, and it's really fucking good. Because I'm not a good tracer. So anyway, my dad, and tracing is one thing. Then you got to color it in, and I remember my dad doing that for us, drawing that for us. And that's one of the only experiences, like I said, that I have in relation to my dad's creativity. But he never forced us to be in the arts. You know what I mean? Um, Anyway, I'm going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I have, like I said, been active on Substack, so please check out my writings on there. As far as my podcast, I do have the newest episode that I have on there. I am speaking with Urania and Alexis from Journey Through the Universe podcast, because I said it wrong on the episode. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I listened back and I'm like, is Journey Through the Universe. Anyway, we talk about dreams. We talk about our experiences with dreams and things of that nature. So definitely check that out. And yeah, just I hope that you guys have amazing rest of your, what season are we in? We're in Aquarius season, as it should be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Right now we have like Sun, Mercury, Mars, I think Venus, all, and Pluto. We can't forget about Pluto, all in Aquarius. Yeah. So shout out to the Aquas. Happy motherfucking birthday, specifically the February Aquas. Okay, bye.